Hey YouTube, in this video I'm going to be talking about which sprint event you should be specializing in or focusing on for the first year in track. And I think this video doesn't just equate to your first year, but your first 3 years in track, and I'm going to explain why. So, your first 3 years in track, you're trying to build speed. That should be your main goal. Your main goal should be trying to get speed because you're not fast. For example, there's no point in trying to say, yeah, I'm 100, 200, 400 meter sprinter if you're not running, like I'd say mid 10s. If you're not there, then you're most likely 1 or 2. But 400, it depends. It depends. Usually most people aren't 400 when they come to sprinting, but maybe you are 400. But you won't know until you have the speed, because it's only when you have the speed that you're able to determine where you are, which should you be doing 100, 2 or 4, which one of these times do you have is the best, and which one do you have the most amount of potential in. That's the one you should be going down. But for your first 3 years, you're so slow in every single event, it doesn't even matter. You do the 400, you're going to get fast. You do the 200, you're going to get fast. You do the 100, you're going to get faster. But if you really want to get fast as possible, you need to chase speed, which means you shouldn't be doing 400 or 200. Your main focus should be on the 100 meters. And the reason why I say that is because 100 is purely speed focused. If you want to be able to run a fast 100, you don't need a race plan. You don't need to diet well. I mean, you do, but you don't really need to have like a mess around with your diet so that you have the right amount of energy. It's an all-out burst. It's an all-out anaerobic burst where you're doing your absolute best, which means to win in a 100-meter race, if all of these factors are important, then you need a few things. First of all, you need to have speed. How do you get speed? Well, you improve your form, and you improve your form by improving your stride length, your stride frequency, the strength of your muscles, and a bunch of other things which, when you come into sprinting, you don't have, or they're very weak, which is why you'll be able to improve so quickly, and then you get to have some speed. And once you've done that, once you've worked on your form, you want to continue to work on your form, continue doing plyometric training, continue to compete, try and lower your times. And over a period of time, your 100-meter time will drop. And the reason why I say if you're doing this, you should focus on 100 is because let's say you think you're a 200-meter sprinter and you say you want to be able to run the 200 in 22, or let's just use 22 by the end of the year. This is your first year in track. You want to be able to run a 22 by the end of the year. Doing some basic maths, obviously there'll be a slight variance, most likely below this time, so faster. To get this time in 100 meters, you need to be running 11 flat if you wanted to run 22 flat for the 200. If you're not running 11 flat, a 22 flat, don't even think about it. There's not even a chance of it happening. And most people that start track, they're in the high 11s, like I'm talking 11.8 and up, or 12 seconds, which means doing the simple maths, times that by 2, and you're going to be running high 23s or probably mid to low 24s if you used to actually run a 200. You're nowhere near fast enough to be able to pull off a 200. Doesn't matter. And what makes it worse is that for a 200 and a 400, you need a race plan, kind of. 400 more than a 200, but you still need a race plan, which means if you run the race, these times aren't even guaranteed. They're just estimates, which means you just don't have anything. And the reason why it's important to be focusing on 100 before you focus on these other events, you can still do these events whilst you're, for your first 3 years. I'm not saying don't do them, but the reason we should focus on 100 is because you need to get experience. You need to get experience sprinting, teach your body how to compete properly, and all these various other things. And the longer the event you do, the harder it is for your body to understand. And 100 is just such a short distance. You have to refine everything to the best of your abilities to be able to do your best in the event. One mistake and you're out, essentially. If you're really fast in the field, 2 mistakes and you're out. And the 200 and the 400 is different because you have more time to make mistakes, but these mistakes, if they aren't refined out, they could still result in you losing. For example, if your block start is poor, you jog out of the blocks, for example, in a 200, you're probably going to lose the race. Do the same thing for a 400, you could get away with it, but if you make more mistakes in the 400, you're going to lose the race. And all these various other factors will determine what time you'll be able to get for the 2 and the 4, which means you should really just be focusing on the 100. Let's say you think you're a 400-meter sprinter and you want to be able to run 48 by the end of the season. Well, doing some simple maths, most of the time when you want to calculate a 400-meter time, you use a 200-meter, you use a a 200 meter time and add 4 seconds. Well, use a 200 meter time, add 2 seconds and times by 2, which would mean 48, divide that by 2, that's 24, minus 2 seconds, that's 22, which means you still need to be running 11 flat to even be considering trying to run a 48. If you're not able to run an 11 flat, a 48 it wasn't even guaranteed when you can run an 11 flat. Because I know people who've run well below sub 11 and they can still barely break 50 seconds or can't even break 50 seconds, which means the training is important, the race plan is important, and the experience is important if you want to be able to run a 400. So before you even consider trying to say, yeah, I'm a 400 meter sprinter, I'm going to try and run 48 by the end of the season, or any time faster than that, even a 49, consider, do I have the speed to pull that off? If you can't run an 11 flat, there's no point. Which is why running 100 for the first three years is important. You can run the 60 and you can run the 100. You can run the 200 if you want, but make sure your focus is on the 100 and the 60. The 200 meter doesn't matter, because maybe you're not even good in the 200 meter, but you look good right now because your time's not fast and you haven't really gotten close enough to your potential to be able to tell. But once you start to get faster, you're going to quickly realize, oh, okay, well, this is where I truly deserve to be. I'm not good at the 100, I'm not good at the 200, I'm good at the 400. But because I worked on my speed for my first 3 years, I was able to continuously improve in the 100. So I was still doing 400 meter races throughout the 3 years I was training on the 100, but my time was continuing to drop. Because for a 200, your 200 meter time is very based upon your 100 meter time. But for 400 meters, it's more based on your experience with the 400. By making your focus mainly on the 100, you're able to get more speed, which would mean that you're able to run faster times, faster times with less energy. For example, think about this. When you was running 12 seconds, running 13 seconds for the 100 meters was quite easy. But consider running your PB, let's say it's 12 flat. Consider running your PB 12 flat again. That would be very hard. But imagine if you're running 11 flat and you try to run 12 seconds. That's very easy. And now say you try to consider to hold that for another 100 meters. It's a bit harder, but it's still quite easy. And that's the point of why we're trying to focus on speed. Because as you get faster, your form improves and you become more effective with each step and more efficient with each step, which means you're able to use less energy to do the same amount of work that you were able to do when you first started, which would mean that these times that you first started in track, so 12, 24, would be able to directly use those to correlate towards a faster 400 if the 400 is your goal. And for a 200, well, you're going to basically be running all out other than a short period around the bend. So you know that your 100 meter time is going to be close to what you're going to be able to run with the 200. Which means after these 3 years, you're going to be doing better. And another reason why running 100 is important is because it's so fast-paced and so competitive. Because 100 is a lot more competitive than the 200 and the 400, basically combined. If you was to get onto the rankings in your country, you'd be able to feel this sense of accomplishment you probably haven't felt ever. Because compared to getting on the rankings for the 200 and the 400, the 100 is so much harder, because you can't just edit your race plan a bit and be able to cut off times from your PB. For the 100, it's an all-out focus, explosive sprint to the finish line, compared to the 200 and the 400, where your race plan can play around with the time you get by the time you get to the end of the race. So by focusing on only the 100 for the first 3 years, you're able to build speed, get better acceleration, improve your form, improve your stride length, your stride frequency, get more efficient, improve your effectiveness on the track, so that when you, after 3 years, you run all 3 events again and you analyze them and you look over the 100, the 200 and 400 meter times, and you decide the 100 meter doesn't have the most amount of potential for you, but it's the 200 or the 400, you know you have the speed to be able to go down that path and actually succeed. And with the training you got from doing the 100 meters, you've guaranteed you have speed now that you can now endure, and you know how to train to increase your speed so you can drop your PBs regardless of whether you're doing the 2 or the 4 in the end. If you like my content, don't forget to like and share it around. Comment any questions you might have. I'll always respond. I post at 1 p.m. Greenwich Mean Time every 2 days. So if you don't know what time that is, then just make sure you subscribe and you hit the bell, and you'll be notified every single time I post. You don't have to keep checking. Other than that, I also have a Patreon where I upload a blog post related to sprint training, gym training, and plyometrics. And I also, if you send them in, I can do sprint mechanic analysis for you and give them back to you, as well as doing one-on-one coaching towards sprint technique and helping to develop you in the gym and plyometrics. I hope to see you in my next video.